There it is.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avagnoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World. God, it feels like it's been a month since we've done one because we've had these daily meditations that we've been hosting at every day at 1 o'clock. So it was like even yesterday, right, when we were talking about it, at the end of the meditation, you brought it up and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. We have that thing tomorrow.
Yeah, I feel like we're even on at the wrong time.
Although honestly, I prefer this time versus 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So
But certainly doesn't break your day up as much,
yeah.
that's for sure.
Yes. Anyway, and so it's us. It's just us today, this morning.
Right, right.
And so where do we start? Good morning, Gloria.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think when we started, we were talking about, where do we go from here?
Yeah. And it's funny because, like we were talking yesterday afternoon and said, so what do we talk about? Because the universe, the multiverse changes every moment right now. Like every time, if we go back to like a couple months ago, we're like, oh, well, it's changing every day. It's like, wow, that was nothing compared to right now. Right. So,
Well, and it's like the multiverse is doing its thing, and it's like our interaction with it is what I see as changing.
yeah, well,
And that,
consciousness within it.
right.
Anyway.
And that, there's no going back to what it was.
Well, and that's really where we came upon the topic for today was in talking about this, where, you said, well, what you're passionate about. And I was like, that's what I'm passionate about too. Right. Because
Right.
here's the reality. This whole weekend was a normal weekend for me, pretty much.
Right.
I went to, like I went to my grocery shopping. I did go to the farmer's market because why? It's the first weekend of, plant season officially. So they had plenty of people there with plants and herbs and whatever. And I'm like, okay, because what do we have to do? It's the first spring in our new house. So we got to do our gardening. We got to,
Well,
and it's
and a lot of people are putting in gardens due to the circumstances, and plants don't wait.
plants don't care either.
Right. Right.
They're like, I'm growing or dying. So, and they're
Well,
great.
and I have this amount of time to accomplish what I'm here to do.
Yes.
And that means that I can't wait just because somebody's not purchasing me or putting me in the ground or whatever. And it's like, I'm here to do this within this time frame, take it or leave it.
And that's exactly a perfect analogy for what there is for us to look at today because yeah, I was like, okay, so we went to Home Depot. We got all the stuff because we had to rebuild beds because it is the first spring in a new house and there's a lot of things, a lot of cleaning up we had to do and everything that we didn't do because we moved in at the end of the summer last year, right? So in all honesty, it was a normal weekend for me. Like I thought nothing of anything of the world events going on except for what was going on in my reality.
Right.
And it was exactly what I would have been doing whether we had this or not. In fact, it gave me more time to do it because I wouldn't have any other distractions, right?
Right.
And so what was interesting was I didn't even remember, in all honesty, I didn't even remember anything about the virus or anything else until I talked to my mother. I wasn't even
Right.
thinking about it. Like, yeah, it was Saturday before our meditation. And then I was just like, huh, isn't that funny? I had no thought about it. And then, I'd forget again
Right.
because my whole focus is what there is for me to do now. What is there for me to do now? Right.
Right.
And so,
Not what do I distract myself with to occupy my time until everything gets back to the way it used to be so I can go back to the way I used to be.
and that is where many are stuck.
Right.
When can I just go back to doing this? When can I go back to doing this? When can I go back to having a normal life? And I saw actually a great post last night by somebody who has been a client of mine over the years. And she, said, she goes, you know what? People always complain they don't have enough time to go to spend time with their families. They don't have enough time to be in the house that they pay for. Right. And now all they do, because they have time in the house that they're paying for, and time with their families, is they're complaining how bored they are, how, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, I can't, how do we all become just present with where we are and enjoy the moment? Because, and she's got 2 small kids, and she goes, because I know that I'm going to blink and they're going to grow up and I'm not going to see them anymore.
Right.
They're not going to be around. Right.
Right.
And then, the time passes, and it's not even that. It's like, well, I looked at, I've talked about that with my husband about that. I said, I bet you there'll be a lot of divorces that come out of this,
Oh, I
as
believe
well as
so.
a lot of re-anchoring in relationships, because when you're not distracted by anything else and you can't avoid each other because of everything else around you, you either remember that you loved each other, or you really look at the fact that, hey, I really prefer not to be here.
Right. Right.
And that's not because of the virus. That's
Right.
that's
It's because of the reality of everything.
exactly. And that's the beauty of what those set of events are showing us right now. Yeah, I don't know. I know, like what we were talking about yesterday. We were just like, you were like, well, that's what I'm passionate about, is moving forward.
Right.
And
Right.
me too. And I was like, yeah, that's right on point, because I don't frame, and actually I started to, and I had to stop, because you start framing things of, oh, when things go back to normal.
Right.
Right on point, because I don't. Oh,
Sorry. That was my phone.
oh, okay. So yeah, when I was thinking about, like, yeah, okay, well, I'm not going to wait for things to go back. It's like, really, what am I guided to do now, moving forward? And that is
Well,
for all of us.
right. And I hope we don't go back to where we were.
Me too, because we were in a really stuck place
Right. And
collectively.
I think, you see the pictures of what LA looks like without smog, and what the canals in Venice look like without all the traffic. And it's like, oh my gosh, we did all that in that short amount of time. And it's
In a
like,
couple of
why would we
weeks.
want to go back?
Right.
Why would we ever want to go back to where we were?
Right.
And I think the business climate has even changed. And now, granted, I know that there's a lot of people struggling with the adjustment, but employers are realizing that, oh, I can have my people work from home, and they actually do work.
Right.
And things that were believed impossible have become possible.
Or things we just never even thought about have become part of our everyday lives, right?
Right.
So, good morning, Nikki. So it's a matter of, instead of saying, okay, when we look at things from the spiritual perspective, and we've talked about this also in the past several weeks, is what's the message that we're giving ourselves collectively, right?
Right.
And part of it has to do with, well, we were broken and pretending we weren't. Like,
Right.
and we kept on putting band-aids upon band-aids upon band-aids upon band-aids, and looking the other way and saying, oh, well, yeah, I don't agree with that, but I'm just going to look the other way because it's too inconvenient for me to do anything differently, right? And that has to do with our jobs. That has to do with what we're doing. It has to do with our lives. It has to do with our politics, and
Right.
our finances, and
Our full economy
yes, everything.
and our healthcare. Look at that.
Right. Right. Because I've seen some senators out there going, yeah, well, nobody should have to pay,
Right.
like
Well,
have like these incredible bills because they got this, right?
and look at, I see people who are, you see the pictures of those that have on trash bags on their feet and on their arms, and, plastic jugs on their head and everything. And they are probably the most scared because they know they're the most unhealthy, because that hasn't been a priority.
Right. Right. And that's what we keep on banging ourselves over the head with, with how, like, oh, well, yeah, I know I should be eating this, or I should be eating this way, or I should be living this way. But you know
But
what? But I don't have the time.
right.
Like, it's easier for me to just stop and get fast food. I don't have time to go to the gym, or I don't have time to do anything active. Like now we have plenty of time, everybody.
Right. Nothing but time. Right.
And so it's like, wow, what a gift. What a
Exactly.
gift we've given ourselves.
You
Right.
know, it's that O word, opportunity.
Yeah.
It's and gift. I love the gift word. It's true. And we've done it for ourselves.
Yes. And look at how powerful we are to have done that.
Exactly. Things that we never imagined would be possible are here and have been here for
In,
2 weeks, two and a
in
half weeks,
such a
however
short period
long.
of time, we changed the world, right? We've
Exactly.
salted everything. And and yes, are people getting sick? Yes. But here's the thing. So to not sound callous, because you and I've talked about this many times, part of this is part of the realization is how afraid we are of death, and yet how afraid we are to live
Right.
at the same time, right?
Right.
So unusually we're afraid to live because we're afraid of death. And so the reality is this: it doesn't matter whether it's a virus, a catastrophe, a car accident, a shooting, a falling in the shower and hitting your head. It doesn't matter. If that is your exit plan, that is your
That's it.
exit plan.
Right. Exactly.
It's nothing that you have not agreed to and planned on from the other levels of consciousness. And so when you start putting that out there, right? Because I'll never forget back when my kids, as they're adults now, but back when I remember, like, I don't know, my oldest must have been like 12 or 13 years old. I'll never forget one time we were sitting at dinner, and she may be 14. She was very anxious and all this kind of stuff. And she was always afraid of these kind of things. And we were sitting at dinner one night. Good morning, Laurel. And she said to me, so she goes, so I've listened to some of the things you talk about, and it has to do with, like, she goes, like that you talk about people that when it's time for you to go, that you're going to go. Right. And
Right.
that's, if you're done, you're done. And it doesn't matter where you are, like something will fall out of the sky and hit you in the head and you're done. And it's just going to happen. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, so then why do we worry about it? And I said, exactly.
Right. Right.
Exactly. And that's what we do, all this stuff, because we are afraid to die. And like, when we're afraid to live because we're afraid to die. And yet then we look at, okay, what is it then we are denying ourselves, right? The healthy living, right?
Right.
And living from place. And this isn't just one thing. So it's not just working out like a maniac, right? It's not
Right.
just eating only 500 calories a day. It is a well-balanced, like, nurturing, nourishing. It is meditating, knowing yourself,
Right. It's a
knowing,
lifestyle.
yes, it's living in a way that nourishes you from a place of unconditional love and coming to a place of unconditional love. Most people
Right.
don't have that. And that is the basis of where sickness comes from, because when we're there, and so this is how it all ties together, right?
Right.
When we talk about,
Absolutely.
when you get into this place of acceptance and unconditional love and trust, and knowing that everything is perfect, and my focus is to nourish me from unconditional love, to be the most divine embodiment that I could possibly be, right? So when we do that, then we exist in this vibration that doesn't even include sickness.
Right. I mean, it's just not a possibility.
So you could walk amongst them. What I kept on seeing, what we've talked about, is what I kept on seeing weeks ago, was walking like through a field of bodies. And it's like, I don't care if it's a bubonic plague. I do not have the need to get sick,
Right.
because it doesn't even exist in my vibration.
Well, and if you listen to people, some people have are asymptomatic,
Yes.
and
Yes.
some people die.
And so, the thing is, again, it doesn't matter what the thing is. It doesn't matter that it's a
Exactly.
virus. It doesn't matter whether you get hit by a car. It doesn't matter whether you fall out of a plane, or fall off a cliff, or
Right.
fall in the shower, or fall or die in your sleep. It doesn't matter, because when we're done, right?
Right. Right.
So when we stop with being motivated by that fear, and we rise above it in a place of um, transcendence, right? Which is what we talk about all the time, is transcending.
Right.
right? Like we
Right.
had the whole series over the couple of months before this, right? Was transcending this, getting beyond this, getting beyond this,
Right.
getting beyond victimhood.
Right.
That was the big
Right.
theme, getting beyond victimhood in this, right? So,
Right.
so if we stop putting all our energies to being victim or avoiding being victim to this virus, right? Then it's freeing up our energies to say, what do I do? Like, what do I do? What is there to put my energies to?
Right. Which feeds right into the passion.
Nikki says, oh God, I hope it's not naked in the shower.
Right.
It it is by the way the most common home death accident in in statistically, right? So make sure you have that sticky mat on the floor, just saying. But so if we take all our energies away from avoiding dying and avoiding
Right.
being sick, because we don't
Right.
even need to worry about that anymore, right? When we get to
Right.
that place, then what do we put our energies to? What is there for me to be now?
Exactly. Exactly. And I would venture to say that a good majority, a high majority can't answer that.
Right. Because we spend so much energy on the avoidance. On the Nikki says, oh God, she's thinking about the shower thing. We get to this whole thing of, and Nikki, by the way, you won't care, you'll be on. So it is what
Right.
it is.
Right. That's for everybody else, not you.
That's what they chose for whatever, right?
Exactly.
So, it goes back to this is no different. And it's funny that a lot of people have stopped talking about what we were talking about before, because it's almost like forbidden to bring this up now because it's such a sensitive topic. But the reality is, I forgot what I was going to say now. It has to do with the virus. Oh, about saying that, oh, right, the journey thing. I know I choose my journey, and I know that you do as well.
Right. Exactly.
And if I listen to my own guidance over everything, and that's not, oh, I'm making a decision to stay home because they've told me that I'm immune compromised, so that therefore I'll probably get sick if I get this. And so if I go out in public, I'm going to get it from other people, and blah, blah, blah. That's not listening to guidance. That's listening to other people and then saying, oh, I'm making an informed decision based on what other people told me. That's a completely different way of
Right.
running than by truly looking at your guidance and saying, so is it for me to do this or not?
Right.
No. And when we get the answer, that's what we do. And we don't sit there and fret. The ego wants to fret. It's only the ego that does all that, that says, I have to make a logical decision.
Right.
Right. There was a woman that I saw who posted something up on one of the groups I belong to on Facebook this morning about how her mom is on her last days, and they know she's going to go within days, and she's somewhere. Oh, I think she's in North Carolina, and her mother's like in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, and don't judge me, but I would really like to go see my mother before she dies. What do you think I should go? And I'm like, if that's what your heart is telling you, and I just jumped right in and I was like, if that's what your heart is telling you, then go.
Right.
I'm like, because that's more important than anything else. And that's what we're not afraid. That's what we're not, that's what we're not accustomed to doing, especially right now, because now, like before, when we didn't have this emergent situation, we could talk about, okay, I honor my journey and I honor yours, and
Oh,
I don't
right.
have I don't
Right.
have to interfere with yours, right? And so we were just becoming comfortable with that collectively, right? And now we have this. So now everybody thinks they know better about everybody else's journey because of what the CDC guidelines say. Right?
Right.
And so it's like, okay, I understand that. And it's good to know this is it? Because does it mar us from following our own guidance? Because then we second guess ourselves,
Right. And
because,
which just it's almost like a practice field for when this is over.
yeah,
Because if you can't do it now, what makes you think you'll do it then?
right. In
Because
fact,
you'll just slide back into some other distraction.
yeah. I mean, and now it's like, it's become this, this thing of, oh, well, I didn't do this, or, oh, I didn't do this. And this is now we're valuing ourselves based on what we think others are going to think is a good person. Right. And I've been watching this all over the place.
Right.
Oh, well, I didn't do this because I was concerned about my mother who is older and da da da. And she lives with not me, but somebody who's like, so she lives with me. And I didn't want her to be exposed to this and, have to get it and da da because of me. And so therefore I didn't do this. And I'm like, wow, that's a whole lot of justification, isn't it?
Right. Right.
Guess what? If your mom chooses to go now, that's going to be her exit
Right.
strategy, right?
Exactly.
There was,
Yeah. Are you going to take responsibility for that too?
right. And it was funny yesterday morning. Scott and we'd gone to Trader Joe's, and Trader Joe's here is doing the 40 in at a time. And it was like 8 to 9 a.m. was like senior hour. And so we were there, it was like 8:45. So we were online and the line went all the way around the building. And so we're standing there and we're talking to the people around us, 6 feet apart.
Right.
The woman in front of us was talking about how she was so worried about her mother, who's like 87 years old or something. And she goes, because she's a chain smoker and she's gone through 4 bouts. I think she said 4 bouts of cancer over the years and all this kind of stuff. And
Wow.
she goes, and I guess they live, she said, I walked by her. I guess they live in like an apartment complex, the same apartment complex or something like that. She goes, I walked by her and she's sitting in a circle of chairs with her friends. They're sitting there smoking and talking and stuff. And
Enjoying life.
I was like, Mom, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, we're fine. And so she's like, and I'm so worried about my mother. I looked at her and I said, your mom has survived 4 bouts of cancer and she's been a chain smoker her entire life. This ain't gonna kill her.
Right. She's not concerned about some petty virus.
She's like, I wouldn't worry about your mom.
Right.
So, but that's the whole thing. It's like we put all those judgments out and it's like, oh, well, this is going to show that I care. And it's like, well,
right.
Really what shows that I care is that I am listening to, and I'm not telling people to go and breathe in each other's faces. I'm saying, listen to your guidance above all else. Stop justifying what you're doing because, oh, my son thinks I shouldn't do this, or my daughter doesn't think I should do this, or my mother doesn't, or all this kind of stuff. It's my spouse. It's, what does your guidance say? Because all that other stuff is all external chatter.
Well, and it's all about them, not you.
Right. Because it makes them feel better. And then and what we do is we say, oh, well, they must care about me because they're worried.
Right.
And so I should abide by that. And these are the things that, so this is all this stuff we're caught up in right now. Right. And our opportunity is to push it all aside. Like the real gift here is pushing all of it aside.
Right. Right.
To go within. That's why we've done here on Ascended World for 2 weeks, those everyday meditations with different people, so that we're giving everybody an opportunity to take a half hour and go inside every day.
Right.
We have no distractions.
Or more.
Right. Or more. Well, at least, right. Just start
at least. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, the opportunity is, like you said, to push all that aside and to make that connection within yourself, so that when things do return to whatever normal becomes, you've anchored that in. Mm-hmm. and that whatever rolls around, you've got that, and that's your basis now, not the noise, not the chaos, not the fray. Mm-hmm. And that gives you that stability that everyone is looking for.
Yes.
They're just looking outside, not inside.
Right. And so the stability comes from the inside, not from the outside.
Right.
The sense of stability, the sense of going inside to ask and know and trust and be in love with you. Like, be in a place of unconditional love and trust, and know that voice is the voice of God, and that is the voice of you.
Right.
And that's a big leap for a lot to make. But this is the gift and opportunity that we've given ourselves to really explore and expand in, because we all came here to do something far more important than, doing what we've been doing in the very task.
And it clearly is important to everything, the planet, ourselves, evolution, everything, or we wouldn't have created such a magnificent set of circumstances to where you have nothing to look at but this.
Right. Right. And it's funny because I see a lot of people out there saying, oh, I'm doing an earth healing or whatever. I'm like, it's not the earth that needs to be healed.
The earth is so happy right now.
It really is. It's like you all stay. I saw something the other day over the weekend. I can't remember where it was, but it was some kind of meme, and it was like about, isn't it sort of funny that now like all the humans who've been like messing with the world are all in their little cages.
Right. Right.
It's flourishing again in weeks, right?
Right.
So, so the thing,
Yeah, I posted something yesterday and said the world will never be the same, and the earth is ecstatic.
oh, I didn't even see that. That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean,
So true.
it's the truth. It's, and obviously it's important.
So Nikki says, I feel a lot of people are about to leave the planet in whatever way because they'll be unable to make the shift. Yes, but
Right.
it's not unable because they're choosing not to be here during it.
Exactly. Yep.
And so it's not the unable thing because anybody is able to. It's just a matter of what they choose. And some people are choosing to be here incarnate through this, and some are not. There's not a better or worse situation. It doesn't make somebody better or worse or higher or low vibration or because they choose to go or choose to stay.
Right.
It's just when you're done, right? And so it's like, so many of us have said, okay, I'm here for the duration, right? Well, it was sort of like what we were talking about. It's like, okay, to say, I'm pretty like, if guidance says, well, yeah, you chose to be here to be a shepherd to help this shift go on, which many of us are getting, right?
Right.
Then no matter what we do, we could walk, like I said, we could walk across that field of bubonic plague. Nothing's going to affect us. It's sort of like a superpower, just saying.
Right. Right.
And when you're not in that place of being afraid of dying, to say, okay, because then if I do, then it's totally my time that I chose to, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, and Laurel says, or they're looking to work from the other side. Exactly, because it's not that I can't heal, I can't deal with it, but it's I choose to do this and help because we're all in this together, right?
Right.
And so,
if you take away the veils, or however you want to look at the separation and dimensions and realities and lifetimes and everything else, we're all still here working on the same project.
yes.
So whether you find yourself physically believing you're here or somewhere else, it's all the same project, all the same reality.
It's like being in a play. Like all that comes to mind is being in a play, right? Yeah, you have the actors on the stage, you have the producer, you have the director, you have the costume designer, you have the set designers, you have the sound person, like
the light person.
You have them all like there, and they're all essential to the whole thing, right?
Right. It's and the symphony.
Yes. So there's no judgment on who's where and where they choose to be, right?
Right.
In fact, it's all ego when we say, oh, well, they can't, they couldn't, like that's what people say too. It's like, oh, well, they didn't get, well, it's not that it's not that they just chose not to.
Right. And what if they had served their purpose, just like the plant we were talking about in the beginning?
Yeah.
I have this to do in this amount of time, and then I'm done.
Yes.
So maybe these that are leaving are being called somewhere else.
Yes. And so that's why I think it was so nice to spend the whole weekend, because we had such a beautiful weekend here in North Carolina. It's like the whole weekend. I know you rained all weekend. I know.
We had really cold, rainy, yucky. Although yesterday it did not rain, but it was still kind of chilly, very overcast.
Yeah. And so,
but we did a nice fire outside.
Yeah, that was really pretty. Saw the pictures. So, but I always forget, like, when you get into winter mode or whatever, I always forget how much of a meditation working in nature really is for me anyway. Right?
It is for me too.
And so we were cleaning up, like I was saying in the beginning, it's the first year, in the new house. So it's like Christmas every week, because it's like, what's coming up to bloom now that I did? I was sending Sarah pictures all weekend, like, oh, look at this one. Oh, look at this. Oh, I realize what this is. And so it's so beautiful, because it's like, they don't care. The flowers are just coming and doing their thing. Right. And so it's like, okay, and we can choose to keep that or choose to change it.
Right.
So, yeah. Although I have a challenging time. It was really funny, because there's like this bush that's a little scraggly in the front, and I'm like, I really want to remove it, but I can't because it's alive. And I'm like, maybe we should.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let it speak to me. Let it speak to me. So I was like, well, we Jen Cunning says, awesome chat ladies. Yeah, this is important. This is an important topic right now.
It
But
is.
moving forward, so that's the whole thing. So first of all, getting to that place of listening to our guidance above all else is, and I can't say it enough. I mean, we've said it a bajillion times over the past
Right.
month, right? Especially.
And it only gains in importance.
Yeah.
It doesn't get like, oh yeah, that was yesterday. It's like, no, that is the only thing.
Yeah. And it's not like,
Yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
right. And it's also not like, oh, listen to it right now. But then when you go back to work or go back to things or go back to what you were doing,
Right. There is no going
back
back.
to, you can back that. There's none of that. And my understanding is the longer we believe that, the longer we're going to be in this stasis. We're forced.
Exactly. It's like being put in timeout.
Can't say it and experience it enough, Jen says. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's like, so yeah, we're in a timeout. So
Right. And we have to learn our lesson.
we're in and actually, believe it or not, this is a pretty gentle timeout for like,
Oh, right. I agree.
so many other things that we can shut the world down with that are going to be, that would be much more explosive
Right.
and even more scary,
Right.
to the ego. So it's like, okay, so take a breath, right? And after you take the breath, we've had days, Kathy Guido, we did the day, of talking about focusing on the breath as part of a
Right. Right.
right. So take a breath and then look around and really take stock of your life. Take stock of where you are in your happiness. Take stock of where you are, like not only with everything around you, but with yourself. Because
Right.
when we don't like our jobs, but we do it anyway. When we don't like our spouse, but we stay with them anyway. When we don't like the people around us, but we stay with them anyway. We don't like where we live, but we stay there anyway. There's usually an element of self-worth issues inside of us.
Oh, exactly.
That cause us to stay because we believe that's all we deserve, or we don't deserve.
And there's one practice that I've started doing is anytime I feel irritation or snippy or at something else, whether it's my dog, whether it's my spouse, whether it's my kids, whether it's, technology or friend or whatever, I turn it around and say, I'm looking at me. What am I showing me?
Mm-hmm.
And why does this bother me? And that gives you a different message back versus, oh, it's always them.
Well, right. And it's also forcing you in close quarters especially when you live with them,
right,
to be honest and to come to a place of honesty, not only with them, but with yourself, really.
right. Yes, which then puts you closer to that compassion for others because you have it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't have it for yourself, how are you ever going to have it for anyone else?
Right.
Which I think that's what we're running into with people being so rude out in public, is they're so rude with themselves. They're so fearful. They're so turned inward that they don't like what they see, but they can't look anywhere else.
Well, and then the ego also wants to control in that, right? And that's
right. Oh, right.
And that's where all that comes from is, you're not 6 feet away.
Right.
Right. You coughed in public.
You touched that. You're on the line, not behind the line.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And so like, I myself have not had any negative experiences out there. I know many people I know have. I mean, I've had people who say things that, like, we were at the farmer's market and we were like 4 feet away from the register, but I had to give the lady my card. She's like, well, can you please stand behind the line? And I was like, well, can I give you my card first so that I can pay?
Right.
But I mean, she was nice about it. So I know of a lot of people having like issues and what I'm like, yeah, because people are afraid and they're acting from fear and they're not listening to that inner guidance. They're listening to all this chatter and all of it does not align together because it's all over the place from different perspectives. What you should do, what you shouldn't do, what's the flavor of the day, what, should you wear a mask, shouldn't you wear a mask, should you do this, should you,
right,
you walk around in a beekeeper suit. I mean, seriously, And so
die from disinfectant because you're disinfecting and consuming everything disinfected.
I know, and I just think, oh my God, we were taking so many steps back with the environment because
I
people
know.
are using
It's
Lysol,
like all those rules have been thrown out because this is more important.
and I'm just like, yeah, no.
Right, right. Exactly.
But like the spraying the Lysol, oh, let's put another hole in the ozone that we finally healed,
Right.
and bleach. Oh, so many people are talking about bleach for everything. I'm like, okay, vinegar is so much healthier.
Right.
And it's just as effective.
Or hydrogen peroxide, because
Or
that's what they use in the
hydroperoxide.
doctor's offices.
Yeah, exactly. Or alcohol. So, but anyway, it doesn't, that none of that.
Nikki likes the beekeeper suit image.
Wouldn't that be fun? Sort of like walking. I just think of it like in a big astronaut suit, walking around. So I told my daughter, both my daughters work in retail. That's now considered essential business, so they're still open and they do. But a lot of the stuff they're doing is the curbside
Curbside pickup. Yeah.
And I said, wouldn't it be funny if you got like one of the, I said that to my daughter yesterday, wouldn't it be funny if you got like one of those full like body astronaut like suits and the big, and the big, like the gas mask or whatever, you walk out like Darth Vader.
That'd be priceless.
Like, although I don't know if that would scare people more, or at least let them laugh, because I think laughing helps to break the fear of it,
Right, right.
But anyway, back to the point. The point has to do with listening to your guidance and listening and getting out of the fear. And if you look at things from the perspective of when I go, it's when I choose to go. It's not because I'm a victim to something. It's because I choose to allow it to help me out.
To be my door.
To be my door.
Be my door out. Right.
And it's not because I'm a loser. It's not because, I don't want to do this or whatever. It's that I'm choosing to do it differently, or where my journey is taking me, what I'm here to embody, what my symphonic note is to be in this whole big, huge symphony. Right.
Right. Exactly.
And when we come to that from a place of, okay, so if I truly trust that within myself, so it doesn't matter if you didn't trust it 5 minutes ago or yesterday, to come to this place of saying, okay, so what does that look like?
Right. What does it look like from here going forward?
Yes, from this moment on.
Right. Yesterday does not matter.
Yeah. And look at, like I said, like we were talking about, what a gift, because we've pushed so much aside.
Right.
Okay, in this breath now, what is there for me to do? What is there for me to be, really? And really, the higher you go in consciousness, the more it just comes back to being a beacon of love, whatever that is in your embodiment, right?
Right. And be that beacon of love for yourself first.
Right. For yourself first.
Right.
And, and that's the thing that it gets lost, because we have that whole like glorification now of, taking care of everybody else, whatever. Guess what? When you are and I can't say this enough, when you're in a place of unconditional love for yourself, you have nothing but love to share with others.
Right.
And it comes from a very different place. It does not come from a place of obligation or expectation or like even needing a thanks. It comes from a place of saying, I am love and I can do only that for you.
Right.
Because you and I are the same.
Right. It comes from that place of being enough for yourself.
Yeah.
That you can be enough for others too.
And so that's the thing to look at this week for everybody is, if I truly can allow that for myself, whatever it is, and just set yourself up to say, whatever that's going to help me, whatever's going to help me get to that place, let it be presented to me. Like, let it be here and let me listen. Like, I'm going to have an open heart. I commit to having an open heart and allowing all possibilities. What would that look like? What would that feel like? Because going forward is only going forward when we stop thinking we're going to go back, because we're not. We're never going back.
Right. Very good. Very well put.
Yeah. So
open the gift.
Open the gift for yourself.
It's for you.
Yes. It's like Christmas. And so that's what I kept on saying. How many times I kept on texting you this weekend, like, it's like Christmas. Look, another flower that came up that I didn't even know was here. And oh my God, those little flowers that are called fairy lilies. I'm like, on my yard.
I know. Well, and your money plant.
And the money plants that are growing everywhere, that I was like, I didn't even know there were money plants. Because I didn't know money plants actually grew these beautiful flowers before they created the seed pods. And I'm like, okay. And they're all over my yard. Look at the gifts I have given myself to remind me of me, right? Because I look at those flowers and I look at the nature, and I know it's all me. It's all of us intertwined, expressed
Right.
in these amazing ways. And so in that's where I forget. I forget all that messy stuff that everybody's all fearful about, because I'm just being what I'm guided to be right now.
Right.
And so for that's the thing for all of us to look at. Open your gift this week, take a breath, and say, so if I looked at this completely fresh with a completely clear palette of what this could look like, where would I start to play?
Right. Right. Play with your gift.
Yeah. So actually, we got to do our little thing, don't we? Let's do our thing.
Right. Yes, we do.
I was like, wait, I'm so used to us just having our meditation. It's like, oh, here's this, let's go. All right. So for today's session, let's do, being like, let's open our gift.
Right.
Allow ourselves the bandwidth to know, that I'm worthy of that. I'm worthy of having a gift in this, right? Because many people say, oh no, what do you mean a gift? Right?
Right. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
Right.
Right.
Instead say, okay, so what's the gift I'm giving myself that I wouldn't have seen, that I hid under the bushes, that I wouldn't have seen otherwise?
Right.
Now I finally have gotten to the place on my scavenger hunt where I find it.
Right.
So with love, unconditional love and acceptance and wholeness and an open heart of possibility, let's allow ourselves to see that and remember it, and to hold ourselves in the space of that clarity and understanding of what that is to be now, divorced from everything that's been in the past.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. Ready?
I am
All right.
very ready.
Let's go. That was really nice.
Yeah.
Although I think we could have just stayed out there forever. In fact, I think after we get off, I'm going back.
Yeah, I could have stayed there a lot longer.
There was this whole thing of seeing how we created this energy to put everything, oh, see, there's the odds, right? To put everything in a stasis, because now we have opened up all those dimensions, right? We talked about that last week. We opened up the
Right.
doors between the dimensions.
Right.
So we put this in a, it's almost like we put it in stasis, the whole like way we've done stuff, so that we can look to this and say, okay, not how do I change, how do I fix this, but how do we do this now, right? How do we
Right.
create this from here? And that goes back to what we've been talking about for months about creating without context
And trusting.
and trusting. Yeah. So it was so
Right.
beautiful because once we turned, because it was like in the beginning, it was a little chattery because it was like, what about this? What about that? And then we just sort of like went, yeah, you know what? Let's just put this over here on the shelf, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
once we looked at it collectively, it was like, oh, look, that's just holding it in this stasis. So we can turn to look at this. And
Right.
we could see all these dimensional, dimensions with those doorways open. And we're like, okay, so why waste the energy on trying to fix that instead
Right.
of
Right.
something else that's much more fun?
Right. And it's something that we couldn't look away from.
Yes. Yes. And it
It
was,
was the fascination.
yes. And it was beautiful, beautiful.
Right.
So it was just opening ourselves up to being able to see that and know it. That's the next steps. That felt beautiful.
Yep.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us.
Oh, Nikki enjoyed it.
Yeah, I see that. That was amazing. Yeah, so play with that this week.
Yes. Yes. Open your gifts, everyone.
And then coming back, you can come back and just fast forward to this part and do the session together with us again because you'll
Right.
continue while if you're guided.
Right.
As you do that, you'll just continue to open up, or you do your own self work or whatever with that, holding that intention of creation. So,
Right.
so thank you for joining us.
And we'll be back
Of course, we'll be back.
at noon.
Well, or
O'clock.
at noon Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and if this is live, if you're watching this live, yeah, 1 o'clock today. If not, I'm sure we're going to keep these meditations also in our archives and stuff like that too.
Right.
There'll probably be other stuff coming up that we're just waiting on guidance for. So, looking into these doorways, we'll just see what comes
Right.
play with everybody. So,
Right.
so we'll see you later today. We'll see you next time, next week on Ascended World. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avignoni.
signing off. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.